The biggest mistake you're making right now is worrying about what everyone else thinks. You're so busy explaining yourself, defending your choices, begging for approval, draining your soul to prove you matter. But here's the brutal truth: no one is listening. Buddha warned, "You are your own savior. Who else could be?" Yet here you are, trapped in a storm of notifications, gossip and guilt. Your mind's a battlefield, stress screaming, focus shattered, dreams buried under other people's opinions. How did we get here? Scrolling, comparing, hustling for validation, while your true power rusts in the dark. Ask yourself, what's one distraction stealing my life? Is it the co-worker's gossip, the endless Instagram scroll, or the voice in your head hissing, "You're not enough"? Here's the secret they don't want you to know. Silence isn't weakness, it's a weapon. For centuries, monks have wielded it to crush doubt, transcend pain and awaken genius. But you're letting noise drown your destiny. Imagine this. What if I told you that everything you're chasing, peace, confidence, unstoppable focus, is already inside you, buried under the chaos, waiting for one move? But there's a catch. You'll need to abandon every habit, every excuse, every "but what will they think" that's held you hostage. This isn't a pep talk, this is a reckoning. By the end, you'll either walk away with the master key to your freedom or stay chained to the same cycle. If you're going to get one thing from this video, get this: stop begging for permission to exist. Close your mouth, open your mind, and let silence rewrite your life. Stay until the end. The final lesson will shock you. Lesson 1. Silence is active wisdom. There was once a great temple hidden deep in the mountains, where a single bell hung in the courtyard. Unlike ordinary bells, this one was never struck, yet the monks believed it held a power greater than sound itself. When a student asked why it remained untouched, the master replied, "Its strength lies not in its ringing, but in the silence it holds." Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of wisdom. In a world obsessed with noise, we forget that true answers are found in stillness. The Buddha himself spent years in noble silence, understanding that the mind, like a restless ocean, only reveals its depths when it becomes still. But today, silence is mistaken for weakness. People fill every moment with distractions, social media, constant conversations, endless mental debates. They fear silence because in it, they must face themselves. Silence is the language of the universe. Everything else is a bad translation. The monks understood this. They knew that in silence, the mind stops reacting and starts perceiving. When you argue, you react. When you remain silent, you observe. When you chase validation, you lose yourself. But in stillness, you reconnect with your own truth. Think about the last time you felt overwhelmed. Was it truly the situation, or was it the noise inside your mind? The doubts, the what-ifs, the endless overthinking. This is the chaos that keeps you trapped. Silence dissolves it. Instead of seeking answers from the outside world, ask yourself, what mental noise have I mistaken for truth? The greatest decisions of your life won't come from opinions, but from the quiet certainty within. The world conditions you to speak, to explain, to prove. But those who master silence understand its strength. They know that silence unsettles the weak and empowers the strong. A person who speaks less is often seen as mysterious, but in reality, they are simply aware. They do not waste energy convincing others. They are too focused on building themselves. Stillness is not passive, it is a force. When you practice silence, you begin to see patterns others miss. You sense people's true intentions, notice hidden opportunities, and recognize distractions before they trap you. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding with wisdom. The mind, once chaotic, becomes a sharp blade, cutting through illusions with clarity. Understand this. Silence is not empty. It's where your deepest power resides. Those who talk too much scatter their energy. Those who stay silent conserve it. This is why monks practice noble silence, not as a ritual, but as a weapon against mental suffering. If you want to change your life, begin here. Take 1 hour each day for absolute silence. No phone, no conversation, no distractions. Just you, sitting with your own mind. At first it will be uncomfortable. Then it will become 2. Stop explaining yourself. There is a reason the bamboo never breaks in the storm. It bends, it sways, but it does not resist. It does not waste energy proving its strength. It simply exists, rooted deeply in its own nature. Meanwhile, the rigid trees around it snap under pressure, their resistance becoming their downfall. The same is true for you. The more you try to prove your worth, the more you exhaust yourself. In a world obsessed with validation, people feel the need to explain themselves, to justify their choices, to convince others they are right, to prove they are enough. But this is not strength. This is ego, and ego is a bottomless pit, always hungry for approval. Have you noticed how those who talk the most often achieve the least? How those who constantly defend themselves never seem at peace? That's because true confidence is silent. The most powerful people do not explain. They act. They let their results speak louder than their words. The Dharma is not needing to be right. This wisdom is simple yet profound. The Buddha never argued with those who misunderstood him. He never wasted energy proving his truth. He simply lived it. And yet his presence transformed the world. Ask yourself, where am I over-explaining my choices? Are you trying to convince your family that your dreams are valid? Are you justifying your boundaries to those who refuse to respect them? Are you defending your growth to those who fear change? When you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim your energy. You stop fighting battles that don't serve you. You realize that those who truly understand you do not need explanations, and those who demand them will never be satisfied. Imagine pouring water into a cracked cup. It will never be full. Some people do not listen to understand. They listen to argue, and in trying to convince them, you only drain yourself. Freedom begins when you stop convincing others of your value. Your time, your energy, your peace, these are sacred. You do not need to prove your choices to those who refuse to see your vision. You do not need to justify your silence to those addicted to noise. You do not need to explain why you are different to those who fear standing alone. Let them misunderstand you. Let them doubt you. Let them talk. And while they do, keep building, keep growing, keep becoming. Bamboo never announces its strength. It simply stands tall. The ocean does not explain its depth. It simply moves. The wise do not seek validation. They simply live their truth. Your power lies not in convincing others, but in being so focused on your own path that their opinions no longer shake you. Let your actions do the talking. Let your success be your proof. Let your peace be your answer. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to evolve, to rise, to walk your path unapologetically. The moment you stop explaining yourself, life becomes lighter. The weight of seeking approval disappears, and in that silence, you realize something powerful. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand unshaken, like the bamboo in the storm. 3. Guard your energy like a fortress. There is a temple deep in the mountains, surrounded by towering stone walls. At its entrance stands a great wooden gate, always watched over by a guardian monk. No one enters without purpose. No one brings chaos inside. Only sacred offerings, incense, prayers, wisdom are allowed through. This is how the temple remains pure, a place of stillness, untouched by the outside world. But what about your mind, your energy? Do you guard them as fiercely, or do you allow anyone to walk in, taking what they please? Your focus is your most valuable currency, yet modern life is designed to steal it. Endless notifications, mindless conversations, toxic people, each one is an uninvited guest at the gate of your mind, draining your energy before you even realize it. The Buddha taught, guard the senses, and the mind becomes a fortress. But instead of guarding, most people leave their doors wide open, letting distractions and negativity flood in. They wonder why they feel exhausted, unfocused, lost. The answer is simple. They have not protected their inner temple. Think about your day. How often do you give your attention to things that do not serve you? Do you scroll endlessly, feeding your mind with noise? Do you engage in arguments that drain you? Do you let the opinions of others dictate your emotions? If so, you are allowing your sacred space to be trampled on. Ask yourself, what energy vampires need banning from my temple? These could be people, habits, even thoughts, anything that takes more than it gives. Monks understand this deeply. They do not waste words, do not indulge in gossip, do not entertain distractions. Why? Because they know that every ounce of energy spent on the meaningless is energy lost for the meaningful. You do not have unlimited focus. Every moment you give to something unworthy is a moment stolen from your growth, your peace, your purpose. You must become the guardian of your own temple. Start saying no without guilt. If something drains you, step away. If a habit weakens you, cut it off. If a person disrupts your peace, create distance. Some will not understand. They will call you distant, unkind, arrogant. Let them. Your responsibility is not to please them. It is to protect your energy. A temple does not apologize for closing its gates to the unworthy. Neither should you. Your focus is sacred. Spend it wisely. The strongest people are not those who do everything, but those who choose where to place their energy. They know that scattered attention leads to scattered results. They know that discipline is not about restriction, but about devotion. To the right things, the right people, the right path. Life changes the moment you stop being available to what drains you. You are not meant to be a vessel for others' chaos. You are not meant to be accessible to every demand, every opinion, every distraction. Close your gates, protect your peace, and watch as your mind, once a battlefield of noise, becomes an unshaken fortress of strength. 4. Action is the antidote to illusion. A potter sits before his wheel, a lump of clay resting in his hands. He studies it, imagining the shape it could take. A vase, a bowl, a masterpiece. But as long as the clay remains still, it is nothing. Only when his hands press against it, when the wheel begins to turn, does it transform. Motion shapes it, action gives it life. Without movement, it stays formless, just like an unrealized dream. Most people are trapped in their minds, lost in endless cycles of overthinking. They analyze, they hesitate, they wait for the perfect moment. But perfection is an illusion. The Buddha taught right action, not endless planning, not flawless execution, but movement in alignment with purpose. A jug fills drop by drop. Progress is not about giant leaps. It's about small, consistent steps. Yet the modern world convinces you that you must have it all figured out before you begin. This is the greatest deception. Overthinking does not lead to wisdom, it leads to paralysis. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start when I'm ready, when I have more time, when I feel more confident, when everything is perfect? But readiness is not something you wait for, it is something you create. No artist begins with a masterpiece. No monk attains enlightenment overnight. The clay does not shape itself. Ask yourself, what's one step I'll take today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because action is the antidote to illusion. Fear whispers, What if you fail? But inaction is the only true failure. Every mistake teaches, every step refines, every experience shapes you. A river does not carve through mountains by waiting. It flows drop by drop, moment by moment. The same applies to your life. The path is not found by standing still. It is revealed through movement. Modern paralysis is rooted in distraction. People spend hours consuming knowledge, but take no action. They read about success, but never apply the lessons. They dream about change, but never commit to it. They live in their minds, waiting, doubting, delaying. But wisdom is not gained by thinking. It is earned through doing. No amount of contemplation will replace experience. No amount of planning will build your strength. The only way to grow is to begin. You do not need to see the entire path. You do not need permission. You do not need to be fearless. You only need to take the first step. A monk does not meditate perfectly on day one. He sits. A warrior does not master the sword immediately. He swings. A potter does not create a masterpiece instantly. He turns the wheel. And in that motion, transformation begins. Imperfect action beats perfect procrastination. Stop waiting. Stop overthinking. Stop seeking guarantees. Begin where you are with what you have, and trust that clarity comes from the doing. The clay becomes art only when shaped. Your life, your purpose, your dreams. None will take form unless you move. The wheel must turn. So, what will you create? 5. Discipline is surrender, not struggle. An archer pulls back his bow, feeling the tension in the string. If he forces it too much, it snaps. If he releases too soon, the arrow falls weakly to the ground. But when he surrenders to the process, aligning breath, they believe it means forcing themselves into routines they hate, grinding until exhaustion, pushing through life like a battlefield. But true discipline is not about restriction. It is about alignment. The Buddha said, meditate, live purely, be quiet, do your work with mastery. This is not the discipline of struggle, it is the discipline of flow. To live with discipline is to surrender, not to laziness, not to distractions, but to your highest self. Modern culture glorifies burnout. Work harder, sleep less, hustle every second. But look around. Are people truly happy, or are they exhausted, constantly chasing, never arriving? The disciplined mind is not restless. It does not chase. It does not force. It flows. Ask yourself, where am I forcing instead of flowing? Are you trying to control everything? Are you exhausting yourself by resisting the natural rhythm of life? Are you mistaking struggle for progress? A river does not force itself down the mountain. It moves with gravity, effortlessly carving its path. A monk does not fight his practice. He surrenders to it. The greatest artists, athletes, and thinkers do not operate from struggle, but from deep focus and devotion. They trust the process. They show up daily, not out of punishment, but out of love for mastery. Discipline is not about restriction, it is about devotion. When you surrender to what is right for you, your growth, your purpose, your values, discipline feels like freedom. You no longer waste energy on distractions. You no longer negotiate with yourself. You do what must be done, not because you force it, but because you trust it. The archer does not resist the bow. He works with it, allowing the tension to serve him. The same applies to your life. If you feel exhausted by discipline, you are forcing the wrong things. You are making it about punishment instead of refinement. True discipline does not feel heavy. It feels light because it aligns with who you are meant to be. The monk does not struggle to meditate. He simply sits. The warrior does not resist training. He simply moves. The master does not dread his craft. He simply creates. Life changes when you shift your perspective. Discipline is not suffering. It is the key to liberation. When you surrender to your path, distractions lose their power. When you trust the process, struggle fades. When you embrace discipline not as force but as flow, you find something unexpected: peace. The arrow is already meant for its target. Your only task is to let go and allow it to fly. Sixth lesson: impermanence is your ally. A group of monks spends days creating an intricate sand mandala, carefully placing each grain, forming patterns of breathtaking beauty. And then, when it's complete, they destroy it. With one sweep of the hand, the masterpiece is gone, its colors scattered like dust in the wind. To an outsider, this might seem tragic, a loss of something valuable. But the monks do not grieve. They smile, knowing the truth. Everything is temporary, and in accepting this, they are free. Most suffering comes from resistance. People cling to relationships, identities, achievements, and even pain, believing they can make them last forever. But life is not still. It moves, it shifts, it dissolves. The Buddha's last words were simple yet profound. All conditioned things are impermanent. Work out your liberation with diligence. Everything you hold on to, your fears, your desires, your regrets, will change. The more you resist this truth, the more you suffer. The moment you embrace it, you find peace. Modern stress is rooted in attachment. People fear losing what they have or not getting what they want. They fight against time, resisting the natural ebb and flow of life. They cling to control, seeking guarantees where none exist. But ask yourself, what am I clinging to that's already gone? A version of yourself you've outgrown, a relationship that has faded, a past success or failure that no longer defines you. The tighter you hold on, the more you suffer. Nature understands impermanence. The river does not grieve the water that has passed. It flows forward. The tree does not resist the shedding of its leaves. It prepares for renewal. The sun does not mourn the night. It trusts the dawn. And yet, humans resist change, forgetting that it is the very essence of existence. But what if you stopped seeing impermanence as loss and started seeing it as space for transformation? Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about making room. When you release what no longer serves you, you open yourself to something greater. The end of a chapter is not the end of the book. You don't lose yourself when you let go. You find yourself. The sand mandala was never meant to last. Its beauty was in its fleeting existence. Just like every experience, every moment, and every breath you take. Life is not about clinging. It's about moving with grace, with trust, with presence. Let go of what is already gone. Release the fear of what is to come. Focus on the only thing that is real, this moment. Because in the space where you stop resisting, something miraculous happens. You become free. 7. The ego is a mirror that lies. A traveler enters a deep, dark cave and shouts his name. Moments later, the walls throw it back at him, louder, distorted, endless. He shouts again and the echo repeats, twisting his voice into something almost unrecognizable. Confused, he starts believing the echo is real, that it defines him. But the echo isn't him. It's just a reflection of sound bouncing off the cave's walls. This is how the ego works. It's an illusion, a voice that isn't really you. Most people spend their lives chasing an image of themselves, constantly shaping how they appear to others. They seek validation, fearing judgment, building identities based on achievements, status, opinions, or past experiences. But what if none of that is real? What if the person you think you are is nothing more than an echo, a voice shaped by external noise? The Buddha taught the principle of no self. He understood that the ego is just a mask, a construct of the mind, not your true essence. The ego craves both praise and blame. If someone admires you, the ego inflates, convincing you that you are superior. If someone criticizes you, the ego shrinks, making you feel small and unworthy. But wisdom sees both as illusions. You are not your success. You are not your failure. You are not the labels others give you, nor the ones you cling to. Ask yourself, what story about myself am I ready to drop? Are you still defining yourself by past mistakes? Are you holding on to a false image out of fear? Are you attached to an identity that no longer serves you? Modern society thrives on identity. People tie themselves to careers, relationships, achievements, believing these things define their worth. But when these things change, who are you? A title can be lost, a reputation can fade, an image can shatter. If your sense of self depends on something external, you will always live in fear of losing it. The truth is, your real self exists beyond labels, beyond roles, beyond temporary successes and failures. Imagine stepping away from the cave and standing in the open air. No echoes, no distortions, just silence. In that silence, you discover something profound. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. You are not your past. You are the presence of this moment. You are not the person others expect you to be. You are free. The world will always try to define you. People will project their opinions onto you. But their words are just echoes in the cave. They are not reality. They are not you. The moment you stop believing every thought, every label, every fleeting identity, you experience something rare. Peace. You no longer chase validation. You no longer fear judgment. You simply are. Let go of the illusion. Step beyond the mirror that lies. Peace. In the silence, in the stillness, you will find your true self, the one that has been there all along, waiting for you to remember. 8. Consistency is the path, not the goal. A young monk wakes at dawn, just as he has every morning for years. He walks barefoot through the village, carrying nothing but his alms bowl. Some days it fills quickly, other days it remains half empty. Yet he never complains. He does not chase abundance, nor does he fear scarcity. He simply walks, step by step, knowing that his path is not defined by one day's offering, but by his unwavering commitment to the journey itself. This is the power of consistency. Most people chase results, searching for shortcuts. They want instant success, instant change, instant mastery. But true transformation is never instant. It is built drop by drop, action by action. The Buddha taught that the path to enlightenment is not about one grand revelation, but about walking the eightfold path, moment by moment. No single meditation session brings wisdom. No single act of kindness makes one compassionate. It is the daily practice, the quiet, unseen work that shapes who we become. Modern culture glorifies dramatic transformations. The 10-day body makeover, the overnight millionaire, the instant confidence hack. But what happens after the excitement fades? People fall back into old habits because they never built a foundation. Real change isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. A single act of discipline means little, but discipline, practiced daily, becomes unshakable strength. Ask yourself, what tiny habit will you commit to for 30 days? Not a massive life overhaul, not a dramatic gesture, just one small, deliberate action. Maybe it's 5 minutes of meditation each morning. Maybe it's reading one page of a book before bed. Maybe it's writing down a single grateful thought each night. These actions seem insignificant in the moment, but over time, they create an unstoppable momentum. Think of a bucket being filled drop by drop. At first, the water level barely rises. It seems pointless, slow, ineffective. But one drop becomes 10, 10 become 100, 100 become a full bucket. This is how mastery works. Success is never a single moment. It is the sum of small, consistent efforts. When people ask, "What's the secret to achieving anything?" the answer is always the same. Show up again and again and again. Consistency is not about perfection. You will miss days. You will fall. But what matters is that you keep going. Progress is never lost. It only pauses. A musician does not become a master after one perfect performance. A monk does not find enlightenment after one deep meditation. The journey is never about arriving. It is about walking. Let go of the obsession with big results. Stop chasing quick wins. Instead, choose the path of quiet, patient effort. Because small steps, taken every day, are infinitely more powerful than one giant leap taken once. The journey is the destination, and the only way forward is to take the next step, no matter how small. 9. Non-attachment is radical freedom. A traveler once came across a wise master sitting by a river. The traveler, burdened with heavy bags, sighed and said, "I have spent my life collecting wealth, status and knowledge, yet I feel empty. No matter how much I acquire, I am never satisfied." The master smiled and dipped his hand into the water, lifting a small pool of it in his palm. "Watch closely," he said. As his fingers tightened into a fist, the water slipped through the cracks. But when he opened his hand again, the water remained. Clutching destroys, openness retains. Let go, and life will remain with you. Modern society teaches the opposite. We are told that happiness comes from possessing. More money, more recognition, more control. But have you ever noticed that the more you cling to something, the more it controls you? The fear of loss, the anxiety of holding on, the exhaustion of constantly chasing. This is the suffering that Buddha called tanha, the endless craving that binds us in illusion. Look at your own life. What are you gripping too tightly? A relationship, a job, an idea of who you're supposed to be? Every attachment comes with fear. Fear of change. Fear of losing what we think defines us. But here's the truth. Nothing in this world truly belongs to you. Not people, not possessions, not even your own identity. And the moment you stop resisting this truth, you become free. Non-attachment is not indifference. It does not mean you stop loving, caring, or striving. It means you release the need to control outcomes. It means you give your best but do not suffer over what is beyond your power. It means you enjoy life without being enslaved by it. When you let go of the need to prove yourself, your energy returns. When you stop chasing approval, confidence rises naturally. When you no longer fear loss, you gain true abundance. Why? Because nothing can be taken from a person who needs nothing to be whole. Ask yourself, what would happen if you let go? If you released your grip on things that only bring stress and suffering, the answer is simple: peace. Imagine a life where your happiness is not dependent on external conditions. A life where you flow with change instead of resisting it. This is the ultimate power, radical freedom. The monk who owns nothing is often the richest in spirit. The person who surrenders attachment walks without fear. The one who releases control finds a life unfolding in perfect harmony. The moment you stop grasping, the things meant for you come effortlessly. This is the paradox of life. The more you let go, the more you receive. So today, take one step toward true freedom. Release one attachment. Let go of one thing that drains your spirit. Watch how life changes when you stop clenching your fist and allow it to flow through open hands. 10. Your breath is the bridge to now. A man once approached a Zen master, frantic with worry. "My mind is restless," he said. "I'm drowning in regret about the past and fear of the future. How do I find peace?" The master simply replied, "Breathe." The man scoffed. "That's it?" The master nodded. "Inhale, exhale. Nothing else exists." The man took a deep breath, and for the first time in years, he felt still. Most of us live anywhere but the present. We replay past mistakes, worrying about things that can't be changed. Or we project into the future, drowning in what-ifs and anxieties over things that haven't happened. Stress is always rooted in time, regret in the past, fear in the future. But there is one thing that exists only in the now: your breath. Your breath is the bridge between body and mind, between chaos and calm. It is the anchor in the storm, always present, always within your control. No matter what is happening around you, no matter how overwhelmed you feel, you can always return to the breath. Buddhist monks have used mindful breathing for centuries to silence mental noise and reconnect with the present. The reason is simple. When you are truly aware of your breath, you cannot be anywhere else but here. Think about this. How many moments have you lost because you were too busy worrying? How much energy have you wasted replaying conversations, stressing over outcomes? Anxiety and overthinking steal life from you, one moment at a time. But right now, in this very second, you are safe. Right now, you are here, and that is enough. The modern world teaches us to look outward for solutions, distractions, achievements, validation. But the answer has always been inward. When life feels overwhelming, pause. Inhale deeply. Feel the air filling your lungs, grounding you in reality. Exhale and let go of everything that is not this moment. One breath at a time you reclaim yourself. Feelings come and go like clouds. Be the sky. Thoughts will always pass. Emotions will always shift. But the breath remains. It is your constant, your home, your power. When the mind races, bring it back to the body. When fear grips you, return to the inhale. When doubt creeps in, find stillness in the exhale. So here's your challenge. Take 3 conscious breaths right now. Feel the air enter and leave. Let everything else fade. Can you sense the stillness? This is the only reality, the present moment, and it is enough. The more you return to your breath, the more life slows down. Problems become smaller, fear loses its grip, and you realize, maybe for the first time, that peace was never something to chase. It was always right here, waiting for you to notice. Bonus lesson: the mirror of no self. A monk sat beside a still lake, gazing at the full moon reflected in the water. A passerby stopped and asked, "Why do you sit here every night?" The monk smiled. "To remind myself that I am the moon, not the ripples." The man looked puzzled. The monk continued, "The ripples are thoughts, emotions, and distractions, but the moon remains untouched." The man nodded, understanding the wisdom. Most of us mistake the ripples for who we truly are. We live our lives through reflections, identities shaped by others' expectations, the roles we play, the opinions we gather. We think, "I am my achievements. I am my failures. I am what others think of me." But who are you when all of that is taken away? Who are you when no one is watching? The answer isn't in doing more or proving more, it is found in silence. Modern life is an identity trap. Social media urges us to craft an image. Workplaces expect us to fit a mold. Even our own thoughts try to label us. But the more we define ourselves, the more we confine ourselves. The Buddha taught anatta, the truth of no self. You are not your name, your job, or your past. You are not the endless stream of thoughts running through your mind. You are the awareness behind them. You are the silent observer, untouched by the noise. Most suffering comes from clinging to a false identity. Many of us live anywhere but the present. We replay past mistakes, worrying about things we cannot change. Or we project into the future, drowning in what-ifs and anxieties over things yet to happen. Stress is always tied to time. Regret belongs to the past, fear to the future. But one thing exists only in the present moment: your breath. It is the bridge between body and mind, between chaos and calm. An anchor in the storm, always present, always within your control. No matter what is happening around you, no matter how overwhelmed you feel, you can always return to your breath. For centuries, Buddhist monks have used mindful breathing to quiet the mind and reconnect with the present. The reason is simple. When you are fully aware of your breath, you cannot be anywhere else but here. Think about this. How many moments have slipped away because you were too busy worrying? How much energy have you wasted replaying conversations or stressing over outcomes? Anxiety and overthinking steal life from you one moment at a time. But right now, in this very moment, you are safe. Right now, you are here, and that is enough. The modern world teaches us to look outward for solutions and distractions. But when you live as the silent witness, life's storms turn into a dance. When you stop searching, you realize you were never lost. When you stop defining yourself, you become limitless. Let go of the mirror. The reflection was never you. Quick summary of 10 lessons. Silence is active wisdom. Silence isn't passive. It is where clarity and intuition thrive. Stop letting outside noise drown your inner voice. Use stillness to cut through mental clutter and make decisions rooted in truth. Stop explaining yourself. Your worth isn't measured by others' approval. Every justification drains your energy. Let your actions speak for you. Freedom begins when you stop chasing validation. Protect your energy. Attention is your most valuable resource. Guard it against distractions and draining relationships. Focus on what nourishes growth, not what depletes it. Action over illusion. Overthinking is disguised suffering. Progress comes from movement, not perfection. Take one step today, no matter how small, to break free from paralysis. Discipline as surrender. Discipline isn't punishment, it's aligning with your highest self. Replace force with flow. True consistency comes from purpose, not pressure. Impermanence as an ally. Clinging to outcomes leads to suffering. See change as a teacher, let go of control, and life's turbulence turns into a path toward peace. Ego is a mirror that deceives. Your ego craves praise and fears criticism. Both are illusions. True strength lies beyond labels. Drop the stories and uncover who you are beneath the noise. Consistency is the path. Mastery isn't about grand gestures, it's about showing up every day. Small intentional efforts build into unstoppable momentum. Non-attachment is freedom. Wanting nothing opens the door to everything. Detach from outcomes, and abundance will flow effortlessly. Breath is the bridge to now. Stress exists in the past or future. Return to the present through mindful breathing. The moment you are in is the only reality. Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. Zen teaches that life unfolds only in the present. Every breath, every step, every thought is an opportunity to awaken. When you focus on yourself and embrace silence, you're not withdrawing. You're returning to the only moment that ever exists, now. Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." Modern life tricks us into believing we can micromanage outcomes, but real peace comes from surrendering control. Like a leaf trusting the river, let life carry you. In a world addicted to noise, silence is an act of rebellion. It takes courage to stop explaining, stop chasing, and simply be. Yet this is where transformation begins. In the quiet spaces between thoughts, where your soul whispers, "You are enough." Zen masters don't chase goals, they dissolve into the process. Discipline isn't a grind, it's devotion. When your daily actions align with your deepest values, effort becomes effortless. The finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. These lessons aren't rules, they are invitations. Focusing on yourself isn't selfishness, it's sanity. Staying silent isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Your life is a mirror. What you pour into it, it reflects back.